A millionaire sees his maid being humiliated on a blind date with only $5, and her life changes forever. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now let's dive into the story. Meet Anna, a young woman who works as a maid in a high-end hotel in the heart of the city. Her life hasn't been easy. Despite her hard work, Anna barely manages to scrape by. Her salary is low, and she's always had to make ends meet with the little she has. But there's one thing she's never lost: her sense of dignity. Her pride in working hard, no matter how difficult life gets, has always been her guiding light. On this particular evening, Anna is heading out for a blind date, arranged by her well-meaning but somewhat oblivious friend. The date was supposed to be a chance to break away from her routine, maybe even meet someone special. However, she was nervous. With only $5 in her wallet, she didn't have much to work with for a meal or anything else. She tried to tell herself it wasn't a big deal. After all, it wasn't about the money, it was about the experience. But deep down, she knew this date could end up being another reminder of just how far she had to climb in life. As she walks into the restaurant, her eyes dart around nervously. It's a fancy place, far beyond her usual spots. The chandeliers glow overhead, casting soft light across the room. The tables are set meticulously, with sparkling glasses and fine china. Everything seems out of place for her. The maitre d' greets her warmly, but Anna can't shake the feeling that she doesn't belong here. She looks around for her date, feeling more out of place than ever. There, at the far end of the restaurant, sits a man in a sharp suit, his dark hair perfectly styled. She approaches him, hesitating for a moment before sitting down. "Hi, you must be Kevin," she says, trying to mask the nerves in her voice. The man looks up, surprised, clearly not expecting her. He hesitates for a second before responding. Yes, I am," he says, his voice smooth, though there's a flicker of confusion in his eyes. Anna smiles awkwardly. "I'm Anna. It's nice to meet you." He gives a small, slightly awkward smile back. The tension is palpable as they both try to make small talk, but the conversation feels forced. The date is not going as planned. Anna feels out of her element, like she's being judged for everything she's not. They order food, but Anna can't stop thinking about the $5 in her purse. She's barely able to afford the meal, let alone any extras, and she's already feeling embarrassed. As the evening progresses, things get worse. Kevin seems distant, his answers short and polite, but it's clear he's not really engaged. Then, the moment that seals the humiliation, the waiter brings the bill, and Kevin looks at it, then looks at Anna. He sighs and says, "I thought you would pay for your part." Anna's face flushes. She opens her wallet, only to realize she's short. The waiter waits patiently, but the tension is unbearable. Kevin looks at her for a long moment, and for a brief second, Anna wonders if he'll say something kind. Instead, he shakes his head and pays the bill without another word. Anna's heart sinks. She feels like a failure. Her worst fears have come true. She leaves the restaurant, trying to hold her head high, but the sting of the evening lingers. She walks down the street, her $5 now seeming like a cruel joke. Little does she know, this is not the end of the story. This night, though painful, will change her life in ways she never could have imagined. I know I promised myself I wouldn't let it bother me, but as I walked down the quiet street that night, feeling the cool breeze against my skin, I couldn't help but replay every moment of the date in my mind. The awkward silence, the forced smiles, and most of all, the sting of humiliation. Kevin's coldness, the way he seemed to look down on me, like I didn't belong in that world, crushed me. I hadn't even expected to have much of a connection, but I never imagined things would go so badly. I was only trying to survive, to make the best of a bad situation, but it felt like the universe was reminding me of how little I had. The $5 in my pocket seemed like a cruel joke, like the universe itself was taunting me. How could I think I could ever be part of a world like that? The coldness of the night mirrored the feeling inside me. I didn't belong there, and I knew it. I had nothing to offer, and it felt like I was invisible. As I turned the corner and walked towards the shabby apartment I called home, I could barely hold back the tears. It was so hard to be strong all the time. It was so hard to smile and act like everything was okay when I felt like I was drowning inside. But I had to keep going. For my family. For myself. The next few days were a blur. I went back to my regular routine of cleaning rooms at the hotel, doing everything I could to make ends meet. The constant hustle, the never-ending list of chores, the feeling of being stuck in a cycle I couldn't escape, it all weighed on me. I hadn't heard from Kevin since the disastrous date, and I wasn't sure if I ever would. Maybe he had forgotten about me already. I was just another face in the crowd, another person who didn't matter to him. But then, something unexpected happened. I was working in one of the hotel's high-end suites, scrubbing the bathroom floors when the door opened, and I froze. There he was, Kevin. He walked into the room like it was just another day, as if nothing had happened. He looked even more out of place here than I did. His expensive suit, his polished shoes, everything about him screamed wealth, and it felt like an insult. "Anna," he said, his voice smooth, but with a hint of awkwardness. "What are you doing here?" I felt my face flush, but I didn't let the embarrassment show. "I work here," I said, my voice steady, though my heart was pounding in my chest. He blinked, clearly caught off guard by my response. I could see the confusion in his eyes. He probably never imagined that someone like me would be cleaning his bathroom. "Right?" he muttered, looking around the room. "I didn't know you worked here." The word stung, but I refused to let him see it. I focused on my task, trying to ignore the tension in the air. The silence between us was uncomfortable, thick with unspoken words. It felt like he was trying to figure me out, like he didn't know what to say. I could sense he was struggling, and for a moment, I almost felt sorry for him. But then, he surprised me. "Look," he said, after a long pause, "I owe you an apology. I shouldn't have treated you the way I did on our date." My heart skipped a beat. He was apologizing? The man who had humiliated me only days before was now apologizing? I didn't know how to respond. I didn't expect this. "It's fine," I said, trying to sound casual, though inside I was reeling. "Really, it's okay." He seemed to hesitate, unsure if I was being sincere. But then, he did something that caught me completely off guard. "No, it's not fine," he said, his tone softer now. "I treated you badly. I know that, and I want to make it right." He stepped closer, and for a moment, I thought he might reach for my hand. But instead, he simply stood there, his gaze intense. "I know I'm the last person you want anything from, but I'd like to help you," he continued. "I know things haven't been easy for you. I want to offer you a job." I blinked, completely stunned. A job? From him? I didn't know what to say. This man, who had looked down on me just days before, was now offering me a job? "What kind of job?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. "I want you to work with me," he said. "I need someone I can trust. Someone who understands what it's like to work hard for everything they have." The offer was like a dream. It was an opportunity one never thought I'd have. But then, doubt crept in. Could I really trust him? Could I really accept help from the man who had humiliated me? "I don't know," I said, shaking my head. "I don't know if I can trust you after what happened." He nodded, as if he understood. "I get it," he said, "but I want to make it right. Please, give me a chance." I stood there, torn between my pride and the possibility of a better future. Could I forgive him? Could I let go of the past and move forward? For the first time in a long while, I felt like I had a choice. A choice to change my life. And maybe, just maybe, that was all I needed. I walked away from the encounter, my mind racing. I couldn't believe what had just happened. Kevin, the same man who had humiliated me so cruelly just days before, had now offered me a job. It felt unreal. I had worked so hard all my life, scraping by, doing whatever I could to get by, and now someone like him was offering me a chance at something more. But doubts lingered in my mind. Could I trust him? Could I really accept help from a man who had once looked down on me? I stood at the bus stop, waiting for the bus to take me home, my thoughts spinning. I couldn't shake the image of Kevin standing there, apologizing, offering me a job. My pride told me to turn him down, to walk away. But my circumstances, the weight of all the bills I had to pay, the constant stress of just trying to survive, made it hard to ignore the opportunity. The next morning, I woke up to the sound of my phone buzzing. It was Kevin. "Anna, I know you're probably unsure about my offer, but I want you to know that I'm serious. I really want to help." The message was brief but sincere. I stared at it for a moment, then made a decision. I was going to meet him. The feeling of hesitation still lingered, but I had come this far. I couldn't let fear stop me from moving forward. I agreed to meet him at a coffee shop later that day. I arrived a little early, the weight of anticipation heavy in my chest. I wasn't sure what to expect, but I knew this meeting could change everything. When Kevin arrived, he looked different. He wasn't in a suit, but instead, he wore a casual shirt and jeans. He looked more approachable, more human. He gave me a small, nervous smile. "Thanks for meeting me, Anna," he said, his voice softer than I remembered. I nodded, not sure what to say. "I've been thinking a lot about our conversation," he continued. "I know it must be hard for you to trust me after what happened, but I want you to know that I respect you, Anna. You've worked hard all your life, and I see that. I see your strength." His words caught me off guard. I wasn't used to people speaking to me like that, especially not someone from his world. It made me feel seen, like maybe all the struggle wasn't for nothing. "I don't know what to say," I admitted. "I'm not used to this. I've always had to fight for everything." He nodded in understanding. "I get it. I've been fortunate, but that doesn't mean I don't see the value in hard work. I want to offer you a position in my company, a real position, something that can give you the stability and opportunity you deserve. You don't have to worry about anything. I'll take care of it." His offer sounded too good to be true. It was hard to imagine myself in that world, working in a corporate office, living a life free from the constant pressure of survival. I had always been a maid, always been the one who cleaned up after others. But now, Kevin was offering me a chance to step into a new life. "I don't know," I said, my voice trembling. "I don't know if I can just trust you." He gave me a reassuring smile. "You don't have to decide right away. But just know that I'm here, and I'll help you in any way I can. You've got nothing to lose." The weight of his words settled in my chest. He was right. I had nothing to lose. The life I was living wasn't working. Maybe, just maybe, this was the chance I had been waiting for. I spent the next few days thinking about it. I weighed the pros and cons in my head. I asked myself if I could really trust Kevin, if I could work with someone who had once treated me like I didn't matter. But something inside me told me to take the leap. I couldn't keep living the way I had been. I needed something more. And maybe this was it. I called him up and told him I was ready. His excitement was palpable. "Great. I'll send over the details, and we'll get started right away. You're going to do great, Anna." The next week, I started my new job. It wasn't easy at first. I felt out of place in the office, surrounded by people who seemed so different from me. But as the days went by, I started to adjust. Kevin was there, guiding me, helping me find my footing. He wasn't like the arrogant man I had met before. He was kind, patient, and determined to help me succeed. I could see that he genuinely cared about my success, and that made all the difference. Slowly but surely, I began to believe in myself again. The work was challenging, but it was the kind of challenge I could get behind. For the first time in a long while, I felt like I was moving forward, not just surviving. My life was changing, and I could hardly believe it. The road ahead was still uncertain, but I finally felt like I had a chance at something better. Maybe this time, I wouldn't have to fight alone. I had never imagined that my life would take such a dramatic turn. Just a few months ago, I was struggling to survive, working as a maid in a high-end hotel, barely getting by. Now, here I was, sitting at a desk in a corporate office, staring at the computer screen and trying to wrap my head around the new job I had taken on. It wasn't easy. At first, I felt completely out of place. I had no formal education, no training in business, no experience in the corporate world. But something inside me pushed me to keep going. I had to prove to myself that I was capable of this. Kevin, my boss, had been nothing but supportive. He was always there when I needed guidance, helping me navigate through the complexities of the job. He would often check in with me, asking how I was doing, if I had any questions, and if I needed anything. His kindness was something I wasn't used to, but it made all the difference. The work was hard, but it was rewarding in a way I hadn't expected. I started feeling more confident, more capable, as I learned the ropes. It wasn't long before I started to contribute to important projects, helping the team meet deadlines and achieve their goals. I began to see a future for myself that was far beyond what I had ever imagined. But even as things started to improve at work, there was a part of me that couldn't forget the way Kevin had treated me at the beginning. The memory of our first meeting, when he had humiliated me during our date, still lingered in the back of my mind. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was somehow still beneath him, that I was just a maid in his eyes. Despite everything, I still felt small. But as time went on, I realized that my feelings of insecurity were more about me than about him. Kevin had given me an opportunity, a chance to prove myself, and he had never once made me feel less than anyone else at the office. He treated me with respect, and that was something I had never truly experienced before. One afternoon, as I was working on a new project, Kevin called me into his office. My heart skipped a beat. I wondered if I had done something wrong. But when I walked in, he was smiling. "Anna, you've been doing an amazing job. I'm impressed with your progress," he said. His words made my stomach flip. It was the first time someone in his position had acknowledged my hard work, and it felt good. "I wanted to talk to you about something," he continued. "I think it's time we take the next step. I want to offer you a promotion." I was stunned. A promotion? Me? It felt surreal. I had never dreamed that I could rise this high, that someone would recognize my potential in this way. "You've earned it," he said, seeing the shock on my face. "I believe in you, Anna. You've worked harder than anyone here, and you've shown that you have the skills and drive to succeed." I didn't know what to say. I had worked hard, yes, but a promotion? It seemed too good to be true. But as Kevin looked at me, I realized that he wasn't just offering me a promotion as a gesture. He was offering me a future, a chance to step into a new world, a world where I could finally stop struggling and start thriving. I took a deep breath and smiled. "Thank you," I said, my voice steady. "I won't let you down." Kevin smiled back, his expression warm. "I know you won't. You've already proven yourself." Over the next few weeks, my life continued to change in ways I couldn't have imagined. I moved into a new role, with more responsibilities and more opportunities. The work was challenging, but it was also fulfilling. I found myself growing both professionally and personally, becoming someone I was proud to be. But even as things improved, a part of me still struggled with the idea of being seen as equal to the people around me. I had always been told that people like me didn't belong in these circles, that I wasn't good enough, that I wasn't smart enough. But now, in this new world, I was starting to realize that those voices were wrong. I was just as capable as anyone else. I was no longer the maid, no longer the girl who had to scrape by with only $5 in her wallet. I was Anna, a woman with a future, a woman who had proven her worth. And in that moment, I knew that I had finally found my place. But the road ahead wasn't without its challenges. There were still moments of doubt, still times when I questioned whether I truly belonged. But with every challenge I faced, I knew I had the strength to overcome it. I had come too far to give up now. My life had changed, and I was going to make the most of this opportunity. The man who had once humiliated me, the man who had treated me like I was invisible, had turned out to be the one who had given me the chance to change my life. And for that, I would be forever grateful. I was still adjusting to my new role when the challenges of the corporate world started to feel even more real. The promotion had given me a new level of confidence, but with it came a deeper set of responsibilities. I could feel the weight of my new position pressing on my shoulders as I navigated the complexities of office politics, project deadlines, and managing expectations. It was everything I had hoped for, yet it was also overwhelming. Kevin had been a great support, and he continued to mentor me, but I couldn't help but feel like I was walking a fine line between success and failure. My imposter syndrome, the nagging feeling that I didn't truly belong, crept up on me during the most unexpected moments. The more I learned, the more I realized how little I actually knew. It was humbling, and at times, it made me question my decision to take on this new life. But there was something else, something I couldn't ignore. Kevin had been there for me when no one else had, and I had worked so hard to prove myself. I couldn't let fear stop me now. I couldn't turn back. It was the beginning of a new chapter, and I had to see it through. One late evening, as I stayed behind to finish up a project, Kevin stopped by my desk. He leaned against the doorframe, watching me work for a moment before speaking. "You're doing great," he said, his voice low and calm. "I've seen a lot of people come and go in this company, but you're different, Anna." I paused, unsure how to respond. He had always been kind to me, but there was something in his tone that made me think he saw me as more than just an employee. It was subtle, but it was there. "Thanks," I said, trying to focus on my work. "I'm just doing my best." He smiled and stepped into the room. "I know you are. And that's why I wanted to talk to you about something." My heart skipped a beat. Was he going to offer me something more? Another promotion? My mind raced with possibilities, but I forced myself to stay calm. "What's going on?" I asked, trying to sound casual. He hesitated, as if choosing his words carefully. I've been thinking about our situation, he began. I think it's time for us to talk about where we're heading. I wasn't sure what he meant. US? I asked, my curiosity piqued. He nodded, a more serious expression on his face. Yes, Anna. I think we need to be open about our feelings. My heart started to race. Was he saying what I thought he was saying? I looked at him, unsure of how to respond. For a moment, everything felt like it was standing still. The office, the city outside the window, the weight of the moment, all of it seemed to fade away. I don't want you to feel uncomfortable, he continued. But I think we've built something here, something that goes beyond just work. I've seen how hard you've worked, how much you've given, and I think there's something more between us. Something real. His words hit me like a wave. I had always tried to keep my personal life separate from work, but the way he spoke made it hard to ignore the connection between us. I had spent so long feeling like I didn't belong, like I wasn't worthy of someone like him. But now, in this moment, I felt like I could see things more clearly. Kevin, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. I don't know if I'm ready for this. I'm still trying to figure out who I am in this new life. He took a step closer, his gaze softening. I understand, he said, but I want you to know that I'm here, and I'm willing to give this a chance. I don't expect anything from you. I just want to see where this can go. His words were sincere, and they made my heart swell with emotion. But I was also afraid. Afraid of losing control, afraid of what this new relationship might mean for me, for my career, for everything I had worked so hard to build. I had always kept my distance from people, always focused on surviving, on keeping my head down and doing my job. But now, for the first time, I was faced with the possibility of something more. I don't know what the future holds, I said slowly, but I'm willing to see where this goes too. But we need to be careful. We're already treading on thin ice with our professional relationship. He smiled gently, understanding the weight of my words. We'll figure it out, he said, one step at a time. Over the next few weeks, things between Kevin and I began to shift. It wasn't an easy transition. There were still moments of doubt, moments when I questioned whether I was doing the right thing. But every time I looked at Kevin, I saw the same sincerity in his eyes. He wasn't just offering me a career. He was offering me a chance at happiness, at something real. As I settled into this new dynamic, I started to see the possibilities. The person I had once been, the woman who was unsure of her worth and uncertain of her future, began to fade away. I had been given a second chance, not just at a new career, but at life. It was a chance to redefine who I was, to build something meaningful, not just for myself, but with someone else. For the first time in a long time, I allowed myself to hope, and it felt like the beginning of something beautiful. I had spent weeks trying to adjust to my new life, to the new relationship with Kevin, and to the job that had once felt like a dream come true. Things were moving forward, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was about to change, something I wasn't ready for. Kevin and I had kept things professional during the day, but there were moments when our connection deepened, when our conversations went beyond work and touched on more personal matters. I found myself thinking about him more than I should, and it was hard to ignore the way my feelings were growing. But I was still unsure of where this was going. It wasn't just the job and the promotion that I was navigating anymore. It was the idea of us, the two of us, trying to figure out how we could make it work without letting our professional lives interfere with what was happening between us personally. There were moments when it seemed easy, when everything felt right, and then there were times when doubt crept in. The more I allowed myself to think about it, the more I realized how much I had changed. I wasn't the same woman I had been when I first started at this company. Back then, I was someone who barely had enough to make ends meet, someone who lived in constant survival mode. Now, I was someone who had a chance, someone who had been given a real opportunity to build a future. And that future, it seemed, might include Kevin. But there was still so much I didn't know about him. We had been spending time together, talking about everything from our favorite books to our childhoods. But there were still things he hadn't told me. There were things I hadn't told him. And that made me uneasy. One evening, after a long day at work, I was walking to my car when I heard someone calling my name. I turned around and saw Kevin walking towards me, his hands shoved in his pockets, his face slightly serious. "Hey," he said, his voice softer than usual. "Can we talk?" I nodded, my heart racing a little. It was rare for him to approach me like this, outside of the office. "Of course," I said, trying to keep my tone calm. We stood near my car, the parking lot nearly empty except for a few other cars. Kevin looked at me for a long moment, his gaze intense. "I've been thinking a lot about us," he said, finally breaking the silence. "About this, whatever it is that's happening between us." My stomach flipped at his words. "I don't want to rush anything," I said quickly. "I just don't want to make a mistake." Kevin smiled, but it was a sad smile, one that didn't quite reach his eyes. "I don't want to rush anything either," he said. "But I also don't want us to keep hiding from what's real. I've been thinking about how this could work, about how we could make this work." I felt a weight settle in my chest. "How do you mean?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. He took a deep breath, then stepped closer to me, his eyes never leaving mine. "I want to be with you, Anna," he said. "I care about you. I know I've made mistakes, but I want to make it right. I don't want to pretend like what we have doesn't matter. I want to see where this can go, to explore this with you. But I need to know that you're on the same page." His words hung in the air, and for a moment, I couldn't speak. It was what I had been afraid of. What if I wasn't ready for this? What if I couldn't handle the pressure of a relationship with my boss, of mixing business with pleasure? But as I looked at Kevin, I realized something. I wasn't afraid of him. I wasn't afraid of the job. I was afraid of myself. I was afraid of letting go of the life I had built for myself, of letting someone in. It wasn't just about Kevin. It was about me trusting myself again, trusting that I deserved happiness. "I don't know what this is," I said, my voice trembling. "I don't know if I'm ready for this. I've worked so hard to get here. I've fought for everything, and now you want me to take this leap, to trust you?" Kevin nodded, his eyes softening. "I know it's a lot to ask," he said, "but I wouldn't ask if I didn't think you were worth it. You've been the one constant in my life since we started working together. I've seen your strength, your resilience. I've seen how you've turned your life around. And I think you're ready. I think we're ready." His words hit me like a wave. I wasn't ready to admit it, but I knew he was right. I had changed. I had proven to myself that I could do this, that I could succeed, that I could have something more than what I had once thought was possible. And maybe, just maybe, that included him. I took a deep breath, trying to steady my racing heart. "Okay," I said softly. "Okay, let's try." Kevin smiled then, and for the first time in a long time, I felt the weight of the world lift off my shoulders. The future wasn't clear, but for the first time, I felt ready to face it. Together. I had never imagined how quickly things could change. Just months ago, I was cleaning hotel rooms, struggling to make ends meet, and now, I was sitting at a desk in a corporate office, managing projects, and navigating the complexities of business life. But no matter how much I had accomplished, there were moments when doubt still crept in. Would I ever truly belong in this world? Would I ever feel completely secure in my new role? Despite the progress I had made, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was still that same woman from the past, someone who had been looked down upon and treated as invisible. My relationship with Kevin had grown over time, becoming something deeper, something more than just professional. But the more I allowed myself to think about it, the more I realized that I was holding back. I still hadn't fully let go of my fears and insecurities. I had come so far, but there was a part of me that was still afraid of losing control, afraid of letting someone in completely. Kevin had been nothing but kind and supportive. He had given me a chance when no one else had, and he had stuck by me through the toughest moments. But even with all of that, I still felt like I was on the edge of a precipice, waiting for something to tip the balance. One day, as I was finishing up a presentation for a new client, Kevin stopped by my desk. He leaned in the doorway, watching me work with a smile on his face. "How's the presentation coming along?" he asked, his tone casual but warm. I looked up and smiled. "It's coming together. I think it'll be ready by tomorrow." He nodded approvingly. "Great. I'm sure it will be excellent, just like everything you've done." I felt a swell of pride at his words, but then, as if on cue, the moment of doubt hit me again. What if it wasn't good enough? What if I wasn't good enough? Kevin could sense that something was off. He stepped into the room and sat down across from me. "Anna," he said, his voice softer than usual. "I can see something is bothering you. Talk to me." I hesitated, the walls I had built around myself suddenly feeling more fragile than ever. "I don't know, Kevin," I said quietly. I feel like I'm not sure I'm meant for this. Like I'm going to mess up at any moment and lose everything." He studied me for a long moment, his gaze intense but full of understanding. "Anna," he said gently, You've been through so much. You've worked harder than anyone I know, and you've earned everything you have. Don't doubt yourself. You belong here, just as much as anyone else. I believe in you." His words hit me deeper than I expected. For a moment, I allowed myself to believe them, to believe that I was enough, that I had finally reached the place I was meant to be. But what if it all falls apart? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Kevin reached across the desk and took my hand in his. "Then we rebuild. Together. But I know you won't let it fall apart. You're stronger than that." His words gave me the strength I needed to push through my fears. In that moment, I realized that I had been holding on to my past struggles for so long that they were preventing me from fully embracing the future. I had to let go of the fear that had held me back and trust that I had earned the life I was building. The next few weeks were a whirlwind of work, meetings, and continued growth. The presentation I had worked on with Kevin's encouragement went better than I could have imagined, and the client was impressed. It felt like a huge weight had been lifted from my shoulders. I had proven myself once again, and the satisfaction of knowing that I was capable of succeeding in this new life was indescribable. But even as things progressed professionally, I couldn't deny that my relationship with Kevin was becoming more complicated. We had been spending more time together, and it felt like our connection was growing stronger. But there were still moments when I doubted if this was really what I wanted, if it was the right time for me to open myself up to something deeper. One evening, as we sat in the quiet of the office after hours, Kevin turned to me, his expression serious. "Anna," he said, "I know this might be moving fast, and I don't want to push you, but I need to know if you're ready for something more. I care about you. I think you know that. But I also know that this is complicated. I don't want to pressure you, but I want to be open with you about how I feel." My heart raced as I listened to him. I had known that this moment would come, that eventually, the question of us, of what we were, would need to be addressed. But I hadn't prepared myself for it. "I care about you too, Kevin," I said, my voice steady despite the nerves bubbling inside me. "I think we both know that this isn't just a business relationship anymore. But I'm still figuring out what I want. I'm not sure I'm ready to take that next step. Not yet." Kevin nodded, his expression softening. "I understand," he said. "I'm not going anywhere, Anna. Whenever you're ready, I'll be here." His words were a comfort, but they also reminded me of how far we had come and how much more we still had to navigate. The future was uncertain, but for the first time in a long time, I felt like I could face it, no matter what. Together, we would figure it out. I had spent so much of my life just trying to survive that I wasn't sure how to embrace something that could actually be good, something that could be real. Kevin and I had spent weeks navigating our new dynamic, and though things were moving forward, I still found myself pulling back at times. It wasn't because I didn't care about him. I did, more than I had ever expected. It was because I was still unsure of what I truly wanted. The weight of my past had always made me hesitate, always made me question if I deserved this new life, this new relationship. But as time went on, I realized something. The past had no power over me unless I let it. I had been given a chance to rewrite my story, to take control of my future. And that meant I had to let go of the fear and doubt that held me back. The next few weeks were filled with unexpected moments of growth. Kevin and I continued to work closely together, but we also spent time outside of the office, getting to know each other in ways I hadn't anticipated. We went on long walks, talked about everything from our childhoods to our dreams for the future. It wasn't just about work anymore. It was about us, about building something together. Yet, even as I allowed myself to open up to him, a part of me still struggled. I wasn't sure how to balance this new relationship with everything else in my life. The fear of messing it all up was still there, lurking in the background. One evening, after a long day, Kevin and I were sitting on the rooftop of a building downtown, overlooking the city. The lights sparkled beneath us, and the hum of the city seemed to fade into the background. It was just us, in this quiet moment. "I know this hasn't been easy for you," Kevin said, his voice soft. "But I need you to know that I'm here, and I'm not going anywhere. You're not alone in this." His words hit me harder than I expected. I had spent so many years feeling alone, believing that no one would ever understand what I was going through. And here he was, offering me something I had never had before, support. It made me realize how far I had come, how much I had changed. "I know," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. "But sometimes I feel like I'm still that woman I used to be. the one who didn't believe in herself, the one who didn't think she deserved anything better. Kevin reached for my hand, his touch grounding me. You're not her anymore, Anna. You're someone who has fought for everything you have. You're someone who deserves this, who deserves happiness, who deserves love. His words were like a balm for my soul, soothing the wounds I had carried for so long. I looked at him, really looked at him for the first time, and realized that he wasn't just the man who had given me a chance professionally. He was the man who had shown me that I could be more than I ever thought I could be. I'm scared, I admitted, my voice trembling. I'm scared of losing control, of letting go of everything I've built. Kevin smiled softly, his eyes full of understanding. It's okay to be scared, but sometimes you have to take that leap, even when you don't have all the answers. Because that's when you truly start living. I let his words sink in, the truth of them wrapping around me like a comforting embrace. Maybe I didn't have all the answers. Maybe I wasn't sure what the future held. But one thing was clear. I had spent so much time being afraid of what could go wrong that I hadn't given myself the chance to see what could go right. Kevin had shown me that the possibilities were endless if I just allowed myself to trust, to step into the unknown. I took a deep breath and looked at him, really looking at him this time. Okay, I said, my voice steady. I'm ready. I'm ready to take that leap. Kevin's face lit up, and I saw the genuine happiness in his eyes. You don't have to do it alone, he said. We'll do this together. And for the first time in my life, I felt like I wasn't just surviving. I was truly living. The fear didn't disappear overnight, but I was no longer controlled by it. I had taken the leap, and I was ready to see where it would lead. The future was still uncertain, but with Kevin by my side, I knew I had the strength to face whatever came next. Together, we would figure it out. One step at a time. I had come so far, yet the more I thought about it, the more I realized how much I was still holding back. Kevin had given me so much, a chance at a new life, a chance to build a career, and even more than that, he had opened up my heart in ways I hadn't expected. But there was still a part of me that hesitated, a part of me that was afraid of fully embracing the future we could have together. We had taken the first step. I had let go of my fears about being unworthy of this new life, of this opportunity. But now, as I stood on the brink of something even bigger, I found myself facing a new set of fears. What if I wasn't ready to take the next step? What if the person I had become wasn't ready for the love and connection that Kevin was offering? The next few days felt like a blur, a mix of meetings, new responsibilities, and late-night reflections. I couldn't stop thinking about Kevin's words, about the promise of what we could build together. But no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't ignore the doubt that still lingered in my mind. My insecurities, the ones I had carried with me for so long, hadn't disappeared. They were still there, hovering just beneath the surface. One evening, after work, Kevin and I met for dinner at a quiet restaurant. The soft hum of conversation and the clinking of silverware filled the air as we sat across from each other. He was smiling, but I could tell something was weighing on his mind. Anna, he said, his voice gentle, I can see that something's bothering you. I just want you to know that I'm here for you. You don't have to keep it inside. I stared at my plate, not sure how to respond. He was right, of course. I had been keeping things inside, but I wasn't sure if I was ready to share what was really going on in my head. Finally, I took a deep breath and looked at him. It's just, I'm still afraid, I admitted. I'm afraid of moving forward, of really opening up to you, of letting myself believe that this could be real. Kevin's expression softened, and he reached across the table, gently taking my hand in his. I understand, Anna. You've been through so much, and I know it's hard to let go of the past. But I'm not going anywhere. You don't have to be afraid of this. We'll figure it out together. His words were a comfort, but they also made me realize something. I had been the one holding myself back all along. Kevin had given me his trust, his support, and his love. And yet, I hadn't fully let myself accept it. I had been too scared of losing control, too scared of letting go of the walls I had built around myself. But as I sat there with him, I started to understand that the only way forward was to trust in him, to trust in myself, and to trust that I was deserving of everything he was offering me. The next few days felt different. I didn't have all the answers, but I knew I was ready to face whatever came next. The fear, while still there, no longer controlled me. I was ready to take the leap and see where this relationship could go. Kevin and I continued to grow closer, both in our personal and professional lives. We worked together on projects, spent our free time talking about everything and nothing, and slowly but surely, I began to let go of the doubts that had held me back. It wasn't always easy, and there were moments when I still questioned whether I was enough. But Kevin was patient, always there to remind me of my strength, my worth, and the love he had for me. We found a rhythm, one that allowed us to support each other, to grow individually, and to build a future together. One evening, as we sat in the quiet of the office after hours, Kevin looked at me with a smile that melted my heart. "I know this hasn't been easy," he said, his voice soft. "But I just want you to know how proud I am of you. You've come so far, and I can see the person you've become. And that person is amazing." His words made my heart swell with emotion. I wasn't the same woman I had been when we first met. I had changed. I had grown. And for the first time, I believed that I was truly worthy of everything I had fought for. "Thank you," I said, my voice shaky with emotion. "I couldn't have done this without you." Kevin reached over and took my hand, squeezing it gently. "You did it, Anna. You've always had the strength inside you. I'm just glad I could be here to see it." In that moment, I realized that I had finally let go of the fear that had held me back for so long. I was no longer afraid of what the future might hold. I was no longer afraid of the love Kevin had to offer. I had accepted that I was worthy of happiness, worthy of love, and worthy of the life we were building together. It wasn't always going to be easy, but I knew that with Kevin by my side, I could face anything. And that was enough. Together, we would continue to build our future, step by step, without fear, without hesitation. I had come so far in my journey, yet I realized that the real challenge wasn't in the work I had to do or the success I had achieved. It wasn't even about the office politics or the projects I was managing. The real challenge was me. I had spent so much of my life defining myself by my struggles, by what I didn't have, by the mistakes I had made. But now, I had to learn how to define myself by who I had become, by the strength I had found within myself. Kevin and I had made a lot of progress, both in our professional lives and in our personal connection. But as time passed, the deeper emotions I had kept hidden started to bubble to the surface. It was no longer just about the job or the love we shared. It was about finding out who I truly was, beyond the woman I had been, beyond the job I had worked so hard for. And honestly, I wasn't sure who that person was. I had never really known, and I wasn't sure I was ready to find out. Kevin had always been my pillar of strength, but I knew I couldn't lean on him forever. I had to be strong on my own. One evening, as I walked out of the office after a long day, Kevin pulled me aside. "Anna," he said, his voice filled with a hint of concern, "are you okay? You've been distant lately, and I can feel something's going on. We don't have to talk about it now, but I want you to know that I'm here whenever you're ready." I wanted to tell him everything. I wanted to explain how hard it was to trust myself, how much I was struggling with the idea of change. But I couldn't find the words. Instead, I simply nodded. "I'm fine," I said, though I didn't believe it. Kevin's eyes searched mine, looking for the truth, but he didn't press me further. "Okay," he said softly. "But remember, I'm here. And you don't have to carry everything alone." His words were comforting, but they also reminded me of how much I was holding back, how much I still hadn't shared with him. The fear of vulnerability, of truly opening up to him, still weighed heavily on me. The days that followed felt like a blur. I buried myself in work, trying to keep busy, trying to avoid the uncomfortable feelings I couldn't escape. I told myself that I was just focused on my career, that everything else would fall into place later. But deep down, I knew I couldn't keep running from myself. It wasn't until one afternoon, after a particularly stressful meeting, that I finally broke. I was sitting at my desk, staring blankly at the computer screen, when the tears came. It wasn't just the stress from work or the pressure to perform. It was the weight of everything I had been carrying inside for so long. The guilt, the self-doubt, the fear of being unworthy. I hadn't realized how much I had been holding back, how much I had been trying to keep it all together for everyone else. I thought I could handle it on my own, but I was wrong. Kevin appeared at my door just as I wiped my eyes, trying to hide the tears. He didn't say anything at first, just walked in and sat down beside me. "You don't have to hide, Anna," he said, his voice gentle. "I can see what you're going through. And it's okay. We're in this together." His words, so simple and yet so full of understanding, were exactly what I needed to hear. I had been so afraid of letting go, so afraid of showing weakness, but now I realized that asking for help wasn't a weakness at all. It was strength. I looked at him, my heart full of gratitude. I don't know how to do this, I admitted. I don't know how to be the person you think I am, or the person I think I am. Kevin gave me a soft smile, one that reached his eyes. You don't have to be perfect, Anna. You just have to be you. And that's enough. His words hit me with the force of a revelation. I had spent so long trying to be someone I wasn't, trying to meet expectations that didn't belong to me, that I had lost sight of who I really was. In that moment, I realized that the only person I needed to be was myself. The person who had worked hard, who had survived, and who was finally ready to let go of the fear that had held her back for so long. I wasn't perfect, and that was okay. I didn't need to have it all figured out right now. I just needed to take the next step, whatever it was. And with Kevin by my side, I knew I was ready to do that. Over the next few weeks, things started to fall into place. Kevin and I continued to grow closer, both in our work and in our personal lives. I learned to open up more, to trust him more, and to trust myself more. The fear didn't disappear, but I learned to face it, to walk through it instead of running from it. It wasn't easy, and there were still moments when I doubted myself, but I knew that I had the strength to keep going. I wasn't just surviving anymore. I was living, and that was enough. Together, Kevin and I started building something new, something real. We still had a long way to go, but for the first time in my life, I felt like I had everything I needed to succeed, both in my career and in my personal life. I had learned to trust, to love, and to let go of the fear that had held me back for so long. And with that, I knew that no matter what the future held, I was ready. I had come so far, yet there were still moments when I felt like I was walking on a tightrope. I had faced my fears, let go of the past, and embraced the love and support Kevin had offered me. But now, the real challenge was not the work, nor the growing relationship. It was learning how to fully believe in myself. I had spent so long thinking of myself as someone who just survived, someone who fought every day to make it through. But now, I had to step into a new version of myself, a version that was not just surviving, but thriving. And that meant facing the parts of me that still felt unworthy. It was a constant internal battle. Kevin had been so patient with me, so understanding. But I still found myself questioning whether I was good enough, not just for him, but for the life I was building. Was I really capable of handling it all? Or was I bound to mess it all up, as I had done before? One afternoon, as we sat in his office, reviewing some new project ideas, Kevin could tell something was off. He had noticed that I had been quieter than usual, more withdrawn. He looked at me, his eyes searching for the answer. Anna, he said softly, I can see that something's bothering you. Talk to me. What's going on? I wanted to say everything, but the words didn't come. Instead, I simply looked down at my hands, feeling the weight of all the doubt that had built up inside me. I don't know if I'm enough, I finally admitted, the words barely escaping my lips. I've worked so hard to get here, but what if I'm not meant for this? What if I'm just pretending to be someone I'm not? Kevin took a deep breath, his gaze unwavering. He stood up, walked over to where I was sitting, and gently took my hand in his. Anna, he said, his voice steady. I've seen you grow in ways you don't even realize. I've seen you overcome challenges that would have broken most people. You've proven yourself to me, and to everyone around you. But the only person you need to prove anything to is yourself. His words cut through the noise of my doubts. I felt the weight of them lifting, if only for a moment. I don't know how to let go of all the fear, I whispered. I don't know how to stop questioning myself. Kevin smiled gently, his eyes softening. You don't have to do it all at once. It's okay to have moments of doubt. What matters is that you keep going. Keep believing in yourself, even when it feels impossible. I didn't say anything at first. I just sat there, feeling the truth of his words settle into my chest. For the first time in a long time, I realized that it was okay to not have all the answers. It was okay to feel uncertain. What mattered was that I was willing to try. I had been given so much, a new job, a chance to prove myself, and most importantly, someone who believed in me. And yet, I had been holding back, afraid to truly accept everything that was in front of me. Kevin's support was unwavering, but I knew that the real journey was about learning to trust myself, to believe that I deserved everything I had worked for. In the weeks that followed, things started to shift. The self-doubt didn't completely disappear, but I began to feel more in control of my emotions. I started embracing my success instead of questioning it. And with each passing day, I allowed myself to take up space in this new life I had created. Kevin and I continued to grow closer. We spent more time together outside of work, talking about our dreams, our fears, and everything in between. We were building something real, not just professionally but personally. I found myself letting go of the walls I had built around my heart, allowing myself to be vulnerable in a way I had never thought possible. But even as we grew closer, a part of me still held back. I still wasn't sure if I was ready to let go completely, to trust that this was it, that this was my forever. Kevin, ever patient, never rushed me. He knew that this was my journey, and he was willing to walk beside me, no matter how long it took. One evening, after a particularly challenging day at work, I found myself standing on the balcony of our apartment, looking out over the city. The lights sparkled in the distance, and I felt a deep sense of peace wash over me. Kevin came up behind me, his presence warm and steady. "What's on your mind?" he asked, his voice quiet. I turned to face him, taking in the way he looked. At me, like I was the only person in the world. "I'm ready," I said softly. "Ready for what?" he asked, his eyes lighting up with a mix of curiosity and hope. "Ready to stop holding back?" I said, feeling the weight of my words. "Ready to believe that I deserve everything I have, everything that's coming." Kevin smiled, his face full of pride. "I knew you'd get there," he said, his voice full of warmth. "You've always had it in you, Anna. You just needed to see it for yourself." In that moment, I realized that I had finally stepped into the person I was meant to be. The fear still lingered, but it no longer controlled me. I was ready to embrace the future, to take on whatever came next with confidence and love. With Kevin by my side, I knew that I was no longer just surviving. I was living, and I was ready to keep building the life I had always dreamed of. I stood at the threshold of a new chapter in my life, but the weight of uncertainty still hung over me. Everything had changed, my career, my relationship with Kevin, my outlook on the future, but deep down, there was still that nagging feeling that I wasn't completely in control. I had learned to trust, to believe in myself, and to take risks. But what if the life I had built wasn't as solid as I thought? What if the old fears, the ones I had worked so hard to bury, came rushing back? The fear of failure, the fear of being unworthy, the fear of letting go of the past. It was something I couldn't shake, and for the first time in months, I found myself questioning everything. Kevin had been my rock through all of this. He had supported me, believed in me, and shown me what it was like to truly open up to someone. But as our relationship grew stronger, I began to realize how much I still had to figure out on my own. I wasn't just stepping into a new life with him. I was stepping into a new life that I had to own, a life that required me to confront my fears head-on. One evening, after a long week of meetings and projects, I found myself at home, pacing back and forth in the living room. Kevin was in the kitchen, preparing dinner. His presence, always calming, didn't make the storm inside my mind any less fierce. I knew I had to talk to him, to be open about the doubts that were consuming me, but I wasn't sure how to start. The thought of sharing my vulnerability felt overwhelming. What if he didn't understand? What if he thought I wasn't ready for everything we had worked for? Just as I was about to sit down, Kevin walked into the living room, holding 2 glasses of wine. He looked at me, his expression soft, almost knowing. "You've been quiet tonight," he said, handing me a glass. "What's on your mind?" I took a deep breath. This was it, the moment I had been avoiding. "Kevin," I started, my voice shaky. "I've been thinking a lot about everything. The job, our relationship, everything. And I don't know if I'm ready for all of it. I'm afraid I'm not good enough, or that I'll mess it up." He sat down next to me, setting the glasses aside. "Anna, I know it's hard," he said gently, "but you've already proven more than enough. You've come so far. You've made yourself into the woman you are today, and I'm proud of you." His words should have reassured me, but instead, they made the doubt feel louder. "But what if I'm not enough for you?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. "What if I can't be the person you need me to be?" Kevin took my hand, his grip steady and warm. "Anna, I don't need you to be anything but yourself. You don't have to be perfect. I don't want perfection. I want you. The person who's been real with me, who's worked so hard to get where she is. The person who's been willing to take risks and open up. That's enough for me." His words were like a lifeline, But the storm inside me wasn't over. But what if I fail? I asked, the words tumbling out before I could stop them. What if I can't live up to all the expectations? I don't want to disappoint you. Kevin smiled softly. You've never disappointed me, Anna. The only thing I want is for you to stop being so hard on yourself. I don't expect anything from you except for you to keep being the person you are. And if you ever stumble, we'll get through it together. I took a deep breath, feeling the weight of my fears beginning to lift, just a little. I had spent so long carrying the burden of expectation, both from myself and from others, that I didn't know how to let go of it. But Kevin was right. I didn't need to be perfect. I didn't need to live up to anyone's expectations but my own. I'm scared, I admitted. Scared of failing, of losing everything we've built. But I don't want to let fear control me anymore. Kevin nodded, his eyes full of understanding. You're not alone in this, Anna. And I'll always be here for you, no matter what. His words were exactly what I needed to hear. For the first time in a long time, I allowed myself to believe that I was worthy of everything I had worked for. The job, the love, the life that Kevin and I were building. It wasn't just a dream. It was real, and I didn't have to be afraid of it. The next morning, I woke up with a renewed sense of clarity. The doubt was still there, but it didn't have the same grip on me. I realized that I didn't need to have all the answers right now. I didn't need to know what the future held. All I had to do was keep moving forward, step by step, and trust that I was capable of handling whatever came next. I had come so far, and I had built a life that I could be proud of. Now, it was time to embrace it fully. It wasn't just about success at work or in my relationship with Kevin. It was about accepting myself, flaws and all, and knowing that I was worthy of everything good that was coming my way. For the first time in a long time, I felt truly at peace. The storm had passed, and I was ready for whatever the future held. I woke up to the soft light of the morning sun filtering through the window. The city outside was just beginning to come alive, and the peacefulness of the moment gave me a sense of calm that I hadn't felt in a long time. The doubts that had clouded my mind for so long seemed to be lifting, slowly but surely. It had been a long road to get here, but I was finally beginning to understand something crucial. It was okay to let go of the fear, the insecurities, and the constant worry about what could go wrong. I didn't have to be perfect. I didn't have to have it all figured out. I just had to keep moving forward, one step at a time. Over the next few days, things began to feel different. At work, I was more confident, more comfortable with my role. I had been given so many opportunities, and now I was finally ready to embrace them fully. Kevin and I continued to work closely together, but something had shifted in our relationship as well. It wasn't just about the work anymore. It was about building a future together, without all the pressure and expectations that had once held me back. He was there, supporting me, cheering me on, and I began to realize just how much I had come to rely on him, not just as a boss, but as someone I could trust, someone who cared about me. But even as I felt myself growing, there were still moments when I questioned whether I was truly ready for everything this new life had to offer. One evening, after another busy day, Kevin and I sat together on the couch in our apartment, enjoying a quiet dinner. The conversation had been light, but there was something in the air between us that felt different. I couldn't quite put my finger on it, but it was as though we were both waiting for something to happen. Finally, Kevin set his fork down and looked at me. Anna, he began, his voice softer than usual. I know we've been through a lot together, and I want you to know that I'm proud of you. I'm proud of everything you've accomplished, everything you've become. My heart fluttered at his words, but there was something else in his eyes, something deeper. But there's something I've been thinking about, he continued, his gaze not leaving mine. I want you to know that I'm here for the long haul. I'm not just in this for the career, for the business. I'm in this for you. I want to build a future with you, one that's not just about success or work, but about us. I want to take the next step. His words hung in the air, and for a moment, I wasn't sure how to respond. It wasn't that I wasn't ready to be with him. It was that I hadn't allowed myself to think about the future in that way. I had been so focused on getting through each day, on proving to myself that I was capable of succeeding, that I hadn't stopped to think about what I truly wanted. But as I looked at Kevin, I realized that what he was offering, what he was asking for, was exactly what I had been missing in my life. I had always been so focused on my fears, on my insecurities, that I hadn't allowed myself to believe in the possibility of a future with someone else, someone who truly saw me for who I was. Kevin, I said, my voice trembling slightly, I want that too. I want a future with you. But I need to make sure that I'm not just chasing a dream. I need to know that I'm ready to be the person you believe I can be. He reached out and took my hand in his touch warm and reassuring. Anna, you've already become that person. You've worked so hard. You've faced your fears, and you've opened up in ways I never imagined. You don't need to be anything more than you already are. I'm not asking for perfection. I'm asking for you, exactly as you are. His words washed over me like a wave, and for the first time in a long time, I felt truly seen. I didn't need to be perfect. I didn't need to have it all together. I just needed to be myself. And with Kevin, I knew I didn't have to hide any part of me. We didn't have to have it all figured out. We just had to take the next step, together. Okay, I said, my voice steady now. Let's take that step, together. Kevin smiled, a warm, genuine smile that made my heart skip a beat. I'm so glad you're ready, he said. And in that moment, I realized that I was more than ready. I was excited for the future, for what we could build together. We didn't have all the answers, but we had each other. And that was enough. The road ahead wouldn't always be easy, but I knew that with Kevin by my side, I could face anything. Together, we would figure it out. And for the first time in my life, I truly believed that I was worthy of everything that was coming my way. I stood there, in the midst of the quiet evening, with Kevin's words lingering in my mind. We were ready to take the next step. We had both spent so much time building our lives, individually and together, but now, everything felt different. It wasn't just about the work anymore, or the goals we had set. It was about us, about this life we were creating. I had spent years afraid to take the leap, afraid of what could go wrong. But now, for the first time, I realized that what I was building was something worth fighting for. It wasn't perfect, but it was real. The next few days felt like a whirlwind of emotions. At work, I started to feel even more at ease, as if the pieces of my life were falling into place. I was starting to own my success. I had spent so much time doubting myself, always second-guessing my abilities, but now, it felt like I could breathe again. Kevin and I were in sync, both in our professional lives and in our personal one. We didn't have it all figured out yet, but I didn't feel as afraid of the unknown anymore. One afternoon, as we sat together at our favorite coffee shop, Kevin took my hand across the table. He looked at me with that same look of affection that always made my heart race. You're doing amazing, Anna, he said, his voice full of admiration. But I want you to know something. We've come so far, but the road ahead isn't always going to be smooth. There will be challenges, and there will be times when we stumble. But no matter what, I'll be here, right beside you. His words hit me in the chest, and for the first time, I felt a sense of peace wash over me. I had spent so long thinking that I needed to be perfect, that I had to have everything together, but what Kevin was saying was different. It wasn't about being perfect. It was about being present, about supporting each other through the ups and downs. I know, I said softly. I'm not afraid of the challenges anymore. I'm not afraid of the future. Because I know that we're in this together. I've realized that it's okay to stumble. What matters is that we keep moving forward. Kevin smiled, his eyes full of pride. That's exactly what I want to hear. As the days turned into weeks, we continued to build our life together, step by step. The fear that had once held me back had faded into the background. It didn't disappear entirely, but it no longer controlled me. I was no longer just surviving. I was living. And with Kevin by my side, I knew I could face anything that came my way. One evening, we took a walk through the city, hand in hand, the streetlights casting a soft glow around us. We talked about our future, about the dreams we had, and for the first time, I felt like I could see a clear path ahead. The doubts that had once clouded my vision were gone. We didn't have all the answers, but together, we were creating something real. I've been thinking, Kevin said as we walked, his voice thoughtful, about everything we've been through, and everything that's ahead. We've come so far, Anna, and I'm proud of us. But I want to take things even further. I looked at him, curiosity sparking in my chest. What do you mean? He smiled a little shyly. I mean, I'm ready to make this official, to make us official. I want to marry you, Anna. I want to build a future with you, one that's not just about work, not just about the daily grind. I want to share my life with you in every way. What do you think? His words took me by surprise. I had always imagined that this moment would come eventually, but hearing him say it out loud, in that quiet moment on the street, felt surreal. I had never thought of myself as someone who would have the kind of life where love and career coexisted so seamlessly. I had always been focused on surviving, not realizing that the life I had built with Kevin was more than just survival. It was a life worth living. And in that moment, I knew the answer. Yes, I said, my voice full of emotion. Yes, I want that too. I want to marry you, Kevin. I want to build a life with you, no matter what comes our way. He smiled, a smile that lit up his entire face, and pulled me into a tight embrace. You make me the happiest man in the world, he whispered. And I felt it. For the first time, I truly felt that I was enough, that I deserved this love, this life, and this future we were building. The road ahead wouldn't always be easy, but I knew one thing for sure. As long as we were together, we could face anything. We had already overcome so much, and now, with this new commitment, we were ready to take on the world. We were no longer two separate people trying to figure out how to survive. We were a team, ready to build a future together, step by step, hand in hand. I never thought I'd be here, sitting with Kevin, discussing plans for the future, both personal and professional. I had spent so much of my life focused on surviving, and now, for the first time, I realized that I was living, truly living. Our engagement felt like the next step in the beautiful life we were building together. But there was a part of me that was still uncertain. Not about Kevin, not about the love we shared, but about how much of my past I was ready to let go of. I had carried so many fears, so many insecurities with me, that sometimes I didn't know how to leave them behind. But as we started to make plans for our wedding and our future together, I couldn't help but feel a surge of hope. The doubts, while still present, weren't as loud as they had been. The idea of committing to a life with Kevin, of sharing everything with him, felt more real every day. We were starting to create a life that was not just about success or achievements, but about joy, love, and partnership. As the wedding date approached, we spent evenings talking about our vision for the future, both as a couple and individually. Kevin encouraged me to pursue my dreams, to continue growing in my career, and to believe in myself as much as he believed in me. It was strange, in a way, to have someone who truly wanted me to be my best self, not just for the relationship, but for me. We spent weekends making small changes to our apartment, turning it into a space that felt more like home to both of us. I had always lived with the feeling that I was just passing through life, moving from one place to the next, never really having a sense of belonging. But now, as we made these changes together, I realized that I was finally creating something permanent, something that was truly mine, something that was ours. I still had moments of doubt, of course. The fear of messing it all up, of failing in the ways I had so many times before, crept in when I least expected it. But every time I looked at Kevin, I remembered that I wasn't alone. And that made all the difference. One evening, as we were having dinner in our newly redecorated living room, Kevin looked across the table at me and smiled. "Anna," he said, "I can't tell you how excited I am for the future. I know things haven't always been easy, but we've made it through. We're building something really special." I smiled back, feeling the warmth of his words wash over me. "I never thought I'd get here," I said, my voice soft. "I never thought I'd feel this way, like everything is falling into place. I've spent so many years worrying about what could go wrong that I didn't even realize how much I had going right." Kevin reached across the table, taking my hand in his. "You've done so much more than just get by, Anna. You've built a life, a career, and now a future. And you've done it with grace, strength, and heart. I'm so proud of you." I felt my heart swell with emotion. Hearing Kevin say those words, knowing that he truly understood everything I had been through, made me realize just how far I had come. I had built a life that I was proud of, one that I could finally call my own. And now, I was ready to take the next step with him. A few weeks later, the day of our wedding arrived. It wasn't the big, extravagant event I had once imagined, but it was perfect in its simplicity. It was a day for us, a day to celebrate everything we had built together. I wore a simple white dress, and Kevin looked stunning in his suit, his smile brighter than ever. Surrounded by close friends and family, we exchanged vows, promising to support each other, to love each other, and to face whatever came our way, together. As we stood there, holding hands, I couldn't help but think about everything that had brought us to this moment. The struggles, the doubts, the fear, and the love that had carried us through it all. I realized that we were not just committing to each other for the moment, but for a lifetime, for everything that lay ahead. Our future was still uncertain, but it no longer felt like an obstacle. It felt like an adventure, one that I was ready to take on with Kevin by my side. The wedding wasn't the end of our journey. It was just the beginning. There was still so much to learn, so much to experience, but for the first time, I felt confident that we would face it all together. As we walked down the aisle as husband and wife, I felt a sense of peace that I had never known before. I was no longer defined by my past, by the struggles I had faced, or by the fears that had held me back. I was defined by the woman I had become, the woman who had taken risks, who had embraced love, and who had learned to trust herself. And with Kevin by my side, I knew that whatever came next, we could handle it together. I never imagined how much my life would change, how much I would change. When Kevin and I first started this journey, I had no idea where it would lead. I had been so focused on surviving, on fighting through each day, that I hadn't allowed myself to think about a future. But now, everything was different. We were building a life together, a life filled with love, challenges, and opportunities. And every day, I felt more at peace with the choices I had made. The wedding was just the beginning. Since that day, Kevin and I had settled into our life as a married couple. It wasn't always easy. There were still moments of doubt, moments when the fear of failure would creep back in, but we had learned to face it together. We had built a foundation of trust and understanding, and that made all the difference. As I settled into this new phase of our lives, I found myself thinking more about what I wanted for the future. I had always focused on my career, on proving myself, but now I was realizing that I wanted more than just professional success. I wanted balance. I wanted a life that was not only successful but also fulfilling, one where I could thrive personally as well as professionally. Kevin and I talked about it often. He had always been supportive of my career, but he also encouraged me to take time for myself, to explore my passions outside of work. He wanted me to be happy, not just successful. It was a new way of thinking for me. I had spent so many years working nonstop, thinking that if I just worked harder, if I just achieved more, I would finally be happy. But now, I understood that happiness wasn't just about what you did, but how you lived. I began to explore things I had put on the back burner for so long. I picked up old hobbies, like painting and writing, and I started taking long walks in the park, simply enjoying the fresh air and the quiet moments. For the first time in a long time, I wasn't rushing. I wasn't constantly thinking about what I needed to do next. I was living in the moment, and it felt good. But even with all the progress, there were still moments when my old fears surfaced. The fear of failure, the fear of not being enough. It was a constant battle. And there were times when I doubted whether I was truly ready to embrace all the good things in my life. Kevin could sense when I was struggling. He was always there, always supportive, but never pushy. One evening, as we sat on the couch together, I told him about the doubts I was still carrying. I feel like I'm failing, I admitted, my voice shaking. Like I'm not doing enough, like I'm not living up to my potential. Kevin looked at me, his expression serious but understanding. Anna, he said softly, you've done more than enough. You've come so far. It's okay to have doubts, but don't let them define you. You're not failing. You're living. And that's what matters. His words were like a balm for my soul. I had been so hard on myself, so focused on the idea of perfection that I had forgotten to appreciate the journey I had been on. I had fought so hard to get where I was, and I needed to remind myself that the journey was just as important as the destination. Thank you, I whispered, feeling a weight lift off my chest. I needed to hear that. Over the next few months, I began to settle more into the rhythm of my life. I found a balance between work and personal time, between striving for success and enjoying the present. Kevin and I continued to build our life together, facing challenges with strength and love. But the most important lesson I had learned was that success didn't look the same for everyone. It wasn't just about career achievements or financial gains. It was about happiness, about fulfillment, about feeling at peace with the life you were living. I had spent so many years trying to be someone I wasn't, trying to meet expectations that weren't mine. But now, I had finally found my own path, a path that was true to who I was. I realized that I didn't need to have all the answers, that I didn't need to be perfect. I just needed to keep moving forward, to keep embracing the journey. I didn't know what the future held, but with Kevin by my side, I knew I was ready to face it, whatever it may bring. We had built something real, something that was ours. And that was enough. I had never imagined that my life could feel so full, so purposeful. Kevin and I had truly found our rhythm, not just as partners in love, but as partners in everything that mattered. Our careers, our dreams, and our everyday moments were becoming more interconnected, and the life we were building felt like something we had both dreamed of but hadn't quite known how to achieve. As time went on, the fear and uncertainty that had once clouded my vision seemed to fade into the background. The self-doubt that had plagued me for so long no longer controlled my every thought. I had learned to embrace who I was, to take ownership of the life I had created, and to trust in the future we were shaping together. But even as things seemed to be falling into place, I couldn't help but feel a quiet sense of unease. It wasn't fear, exactly, but more like the weight of everything we had worked so hard for was finally settling on my shoulders. The realization that we were building something real, something lasting, hit me all at once. It wasn't just about us as a couple. It was about the legacy we would leave, the impact we would have on the people around us, and on the lives we had touched. I remember one evening, as we sat on the balcony of our apartment, watching the sun dip below the skyline, Kevin turned to me with a smile that made my heart skip. "I've been thinking," he said, his voice steady but with an undercurrent of excitement. "We've come a long way, haven't we?" I nodded, resting my head on his shoulder. "We really have. It feels like we've built something solid. And every day, it gets better." "But we're not done yet," Kevin said, his voice taking on a more serious tone. "I want to keep growing. I want to keep pushing us to be more, to achieve more, to help more." His words surprised me. I had always believed that once we reached a certain point, once we had the stability we had been craving, life would settle into a comfortable routine. But Kevin's drive, his ambition, reminded me that success wasn't just about reaching a destination. It was about the continuous journey, about striving for more and better, not just for ourselves, but for the people we cared about. "What do you mean?" I asked, curious but also slightly apprehensive. "I mean, I want us to start thinking bigger," Kevin said, his eyes alight with possibility. "We've done so much already, but I think we can do more. We've both had our struggles, our setbacks, but we've overcome them. Now, I think it's time for us to really go after something bigger, to make an impact beyond just our careers." His words ignited something in me. I had always been focused on surviving, on achieving just enough to get by. But now, I realized that there was more to life than just making it. There was meaning in the pursuit of something greater, in doing something that mattered on a larger scale. "What did you have in mind?" I asked, my heart racing with excitement and fear. Kevin smiled, as if he had been waiting for me to ask. "I think we should start a foundation, a way to give back, to support causes that matter to us, to help others who are facing the kind of challenges we've overcome. It's time to use what we've learned to make a real difference." The idea was nothing short of transformative. It was a bold step, one that would require time, effort, and resources, but it felt right. I realized that, in all the success we had achieved, we hadn't truly stopped to think about how we could share our fortune with others, how we could use our position to lift others up. Kevin's vision was about more than just money or recognition. It was about creating a legacy, about using the strength we had gained to give others a chance at success, just as we had been given. I looked at him, and in that moment, I knew that this was the next step in our journey. "I love that idea," I said, my voice filled with determination. "Let's do it. Let's build something that will last, that will make a difference." Kevin squeezed my hand, his smile growing wider. "I knew you'd be on board. Together, we can make this happen." And just like that, the next chapter of our lives began to unfold. We had been building a life together for so long, but now, it felt like we were ready to take on something bigger, something that would truly matter. The foundation was just the beginning. We started researching causes, meeting with experts, and building a network of like-minded people who shared our vision. There were challenges along the way, of course. It wasn't easy, and there were moments when I felt overwhelmed by the magnitude of what we were trying to accomplish. But every time I looked at Kevin, I felt a renewed sense of purpose. We were doing something that mattered, something that would outlast us, something that would leave a positive mark on the world. The fear that had once held me back no longer had a hold on me. I had taken the leap, and I was ready to embrace the journey, whatever it might bring. Together, we were creating something meaningful, something that would change lives, and it felt incredible. Our future wasn't just about what we could achieve as individuals. It was about what we could do together, what we could create, and how we could help others do the same. And for the first time, I realized that this was what it meant to truly live, to take risks, to reach for something bigger, and to give everything we had to something that would make a difference. I woke up the next morning feeling a sense of purpose that had been missing for so long. The foundation was starting to take shape, and though there were countless challenges ahead, I felt more alive than ever. The dream we had started to build was no longer just a vision. It was becoming a reality, and that brought a sense of excitement and responsibility I had never experienced before. Kevin and I had spent the last few weeks diving into the logistics of our new venture, researching everything we needed to know, meeting with people who had experience in the nonprofit world, and discussing our values and goals. We were determined to make this work, not just for us, but for the many people we hoped to help. Our foundation was born out of the idea that everyone, regardless of their circumstances, deserved a chance to succeed. We had both faced struggles, and we knew how hard it could be to overcome them alone. The idea of providing that extra push for those in need felt like the most meaningful thing we could do with the resources we had. But there were still moments of doubt, moments when I wondered if we were truly prepared for everything that lay ahead. It was easy to get caught up in the excitement of the idea, but the reality of running a foundation was daunting. There were so many details to consider, so many people to help, and so many potential setbacks to face. I didn't want to fail. I didn't want to let Kevin down or let down the people we hoped to reach. I had spent so many years working to prove myself that I wasn't sure if I could live up to the expectations I was now placing on myself. Kevin, as always, was my anchor. He could sense when I was struggling, when the weight of everything felt like too much. One night, after a particularly long day of meetings and planning, we sat down to dinner together. The quiet of our apartment was a stark contrast to the busyness of the world outside. As I stared at my plate, I felt Kevin's hand. On mine, warm and reassuring. "Anna," he said softly, "I can see you're carrying a lot right now, but I want you to remember something. We're doing this together, and we don't have to be perfect. We just have to keep moving forward, one step at a time." His words reminded me of something I had lost sight of. I didn't need to be perfect. I didn't need to have everything figured out. All I needed to do was show up, keep trying, and trust that I was doing my best. I had spent so long fearing failure that I had forgotten that failure wasn't the end. It was just part of the journey. "I know," I said quietly, feeling the tension ease in my shoulders. "It's just hard sometimes, you know? There's so much to do, and I feel like we're only just beginning. What if we don't succeed? What if it all falls apart?" Kevin's expression softened, and he reached across the table to gently squeeze my hand. "If it falls apart, we'll pick up the pieces. But I don't believe it will. We've already done so much. We've come this far because we believe in it, because we believe in each other. That's what will keep us going, no matter what." His faith in me, in us, was a steady reminder that I wasn't in this alone. He believed in our mission, he believed in our ability to succeed, and he believed in me. And that belief, more than anything else, was what I needed to push past my fears. The next few weeks were a blur of activity. We officially launched the foundation, and though the first steps were small, they felt monumental. We started reaching out to potential donors, partners, and individuals who could benefit from the resources we were offering. It was hard work, and there were moments when I questioned whether we were truly making an impact. But then, one afternoon, we received a letter from someone whose life had been changed because of the foundation's support. Reading that letter brought me to tears. It wasn't just about the money we were giving or the programs we were offering. It was about the hope we were providing, the opportunity we were giving others to change their own lives. In that moment, I realized that we were doing exactly what we had set out to do. We were making a difference, one person at a time. That letter became a turning point for me. It was a reminder of why we started this journey in the first place, and it fueled my commitment to continue. Every phone call, every meeting, every partnership was worth it because it was all part of something bigger than us. Kevin and I were in this together, and as long as we kept believing in the mission, there was nothing that could stop us. In the months that followed, the foundation continued to grow. We started to see the impact we were making on a larger scale, and the stories of lives changed kept pouring in. I knew we weren't done yet, that there was so much more to be done. But for the first time, I felt like we were on the right path. I had gone from a woman consumed by self-doubt, unsure of my place in the world, to someone who was living out her purpose, someone who was making a real difference. And it was all because I had finally learned to trust, not just in Kevin, but in myself. The fear of failure was always going to be there, but now, it didn't control me. Now, I was living, not just surviving, and I was ready for whatever came next. I stood at the edge of our journey, reflecting on how far we had come. Kevin and I had started with nothing but dreams and a shared vision, and now, looking at everything we had built together, I realized that we had created something that would last. It wasn't just about the foundation we had started or the work we had done together. It was about the life we had forged, the way we had grown as individuals and as a couple, and the strength we had found in each other. I had learned so much over the course of this journey, about love, about partnership, about resilience. I had learned that the greatest achievements didn't come from being perfect or having everything figured out. They came from taking risks, making mistakes, learning from them, and having the courage to keep going, even when it seemed impossible. When we first began, I was a woman who didn't believe in herself. I was a woman who thought that success was something I had to chase, something that could only be earned through endless struggle. But now, I realized that success wasn't just about achievements or accolades. It was about the peace I had found within myself, the happiness I had discovered in the quiet moments, and the confidence I had gained in the process. Kevin had shown me that love and success weren't mutually exclusive. He had taught me that love could be a source of strength, not just something to hold on to, but something that lifted you up, made you better, and made everything seem possible. With Kevin, I had found not just a partner, but a soulmate, someone who believed in me even when I couldn't believe in myself. Together, we had built a life that was rooted in trust, in support, and in the shared belief that we could accomplish anything. The foundation was thriving, and I could see the impact it was having on people's lives. The stories of individuals whose lives had been changed, whose futures had been reshaped because of the work we were doing, filled me with a sense of purpose I had never known. But as much as I was proud of everything we had accomplished, I knew that there was still so much more to do. The future was uncertain, and there would be challenges ahead, but I was no longer afraid of them. I was no longer afraid of failing, because I had learned that failure wasn't the end. It was just another step in the process. And with Kevin by my side, I knew we could handle whatever came our way. As we sat together on the couch that evening, the soft glow of the lamp casting shadows across the room, Kevin turned to me and smiled. "We've come a long way," he said, his voice full of pride. "But the best part is that we're just getting started." I smiled back, feeling a sense of contentment that I hadn't known before. "I never thought I could get here," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. "I never thought I could have this life, this love, this future. But now I know it's possible. I know that I'm worthy of it." Kevin's hand found mine, his touch warm and steady. "You've always been worthy, Anna," he said, his voice filled with sincerity. "You just had to see it for yourself." The future stretched out before us, full of possibilities, full of dreams waiting to be realized. And as I looked at Kevin, as I thought about everything we had built, I knew that no matter what the future held, we would face it together. With each other, we had the strength to overcome anything. With each other, we had already proven that we could turn our dreams into reality. And for the first time in my life, I was truly ready for the journey ahead. Whatever challenges, victories, or unexpected twists came our way, we would navigate them together. Our story had only just begun, and I knew that the best was yet to come. Explore an inspiring journey of transformation and success with this remarkable tale of overcoming struggles and building a fulfilling life. In these millionaire stories, witness how dreams evolve into reality through hard work, dedication, and belief. From humble beginnings to achieving true happiness and purpose, these millionaire stories illustrate that success isn't just about wealth, but about finding balance, love, and personal growth. The challenges faced are real, but with resilience, every obstacle becomes a stepping stone toward success. This collection of millionaire stories highlights the importance of trust, partnerships, and the power of community in achieving greatness. Learn how a couple's vision becomes reality, giving back to others, and finding fulfillment in something bigger than themselves. Through the highs and lows, These millionaire stories demonstrate the incredible impact of pursuing passion and purpose while building a legacy for the future. Don't miss out on these incredible millionaire stories that show what it truly means to succeed and thrive.